choosing to walk and see what they got going on today. All the farmers are showing up, and it's exciting to see what we're going to be cooking. So we made it to the Urban Harvest Farmers Market. We got fresh produce, we got great food to taste, we have live music.
Welcome to Currant Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Soren Peterson, and I'm here to share quick and easy recipes of how to use local products from your markets around Houston. Today, we're going to play with some fresh carrots, with a little bit of goat cheesecake. We're also going to make a braised chicken with some pea mash, and end it all off with a bit of savory fennel with a white pepper fromage. So let's head to the kitchen. You're watching Currant Kitchen. So welcome back to Currant Kitchen. As promised, we're going to make simple, easy recipes. Today we picked up some carrots from the market, and we're going to play with that with some goat cheesecake. And to get started on this, we're going to make a nice, simple vinaigrette just to toss the carrot in, go with the goat cheesecake. So the first step in that is we're going to add a little bit of cane vinegar to our bowl here, along with a little bit of honey. Actually, also another local delight. And we're just going to mix this up very easy. The cane vinegar is kind of a round way of using vinegar, adding the sweetness from the honey, and basically just whisking this together, adding a little bit of olive oil, actually a Texas Hill Country olive oil, mixing it up, just a simple vinaigrette, a little bit of pinch of salt, and that's the basis for our salad. Now, of course, the carrots, as promised, is we peeled, and we're actually going to keep shaving them into a nice salad. So if you're not going to cook them, we're actually going to keep them raw. But by peeling them, you get nice thin slices, and you continue to basically peel the carrot, getting like some long shavings to base for your salad. These are organic heirloom carrots, which we picked up. And we're just going to dump them in the vinaigrette here, along with a little bit of fresh parsley and a little bit of the carrot tops. The carrot tops is very nutritious. It adds a little bit of crunch to the salad. So we're going to dump that in here along with the carrots. We're going to add a little bit more carrot to this. Again, just shaving. And these heirloom carrots comes in different colors. They taste the same, but they're different colors. So it's nice to make a little salad using a couple of different colors that you're picking up. So basically we have this soaking in the vinaigrettes, and then we're going to make a goat cheesecake. I'm going to put this aside and add a little bit of fresh goat cheese, which we're going to dump in here in the bowl, along with an egg. And we're going to mix that up with a little bit of salt and pepper, as well as a little bit of fresh parsley, kind of going again with the rest of the recipe to kind of keep the flavors simply pure, delicious. Let the product speak for itself, which is what this is all about to begin with. So chopping it up, obviously we washed it ahead of time, just to kind of rough chop it, just to not get any too much of a texture in there, but just get the nice flavor. So basically dump that in there along with a little bit of salt. This is actually a black lava salt, which is very nutritious, kind of a little bit of a milder flavor, in my opinion. So we're going to stir this up. And once we get it mixed, we're going to add a little bit of breadcrumbs, which we use panko breadcrumbs, which is the white breadcrumb. So not to have what generally breadcrumbs has from the crust and everything else, and it has a little bit more of a brown flavor. We try to keep it light, keep it with the goat cheese. Mixing it all up. Again, very simple, and the idea with this is that we're going to sear it on the skillet, and to add a little bit of crispiness along with the carrots, and just mixing it up basically mixing it up to make it into a smooth texture. And you can kind of add breadcrumbs as you like. And as you see the texture, the idea is you want to shape it into a cake. So when you get to that point, it's basically ready to get on the skillet. And just the vinegar with the sweetness of the goat cheese is definitely something that you will enjoy any day, even in the summer. And you can kind of finish it a little bit with your hand just to get this shaped into a cake. And this is a great addition to a meal or maybe just as an afternoon snack. So turn on your skillets. We're going to add a combination of olive oil and add a little bit of butter. And it just simply helps to, when you sear the cake, that the butter doesn't turn brown as fast, because basically butter has a lower temperature of heat resistance, so you can keep the skillet a little bit hotter but still have the benefits of the butter. So 2 simple cakes is the idea. And again, the breadcrumb is just to actually hold it together, but otherwise it's mainly goat cheese, a little bit of parsley as you saw, 1 egg, just to keep it together. So once your skillet is warm, you want to get that butter to come up where you see it bubble and then go down again. And that gives you that heat, just enough to make it nice and crisp without burning it by any means. You see the butter coming up. Just another 2 seconds and you're ready to put down your cake. We're going to add just a little bit of breadcrumbs on top and underneath, just to keep the shape when we lay it in the skillet. And they will crisp up nicely. See the butter coming up, and that's the time where you can turn the pan down a little bit to medium and just get that nice little sear on the cake. So this is a salad that you simply put together right then and then. You can make the cakes ahead of time if you wish, just to make it a little bit easier on yourself. If you're serving it for your family, you can actually pre-prep most of this. You see the nice little crispiness, little brown on the outside, keeping the goat cheese soft. It'll give it a little bit of a kind of medium heat inside. The main thing is to actually get that little crisp on the outside, add that crunchiness to the salads. Just turn it down a little bit, finish it up. And then the idea is that we're going to simply place this cake right here in the middle of the plates. And you could make this into a smaller appetizer and basically serve individual portions, and you can make it as a family share, family style way of serving. So we're going to do that. Drizzle a little bit of that vinaigrette on top just to get it. And there you have it. Just a beautiful carrot salad with a little bit of goat cheese. So welcome back to Currant Kitchen. We played with a little bit of carrots a minute ago for some nice salad with a goat cheese cake. Now it's time to play with some chicken. We went to the market, we picked up a chicken along with some nice vegetables that will go nicely with it. We're going to actually braise this dish. And we're doing that to really intensify all the flavors that there's in the vegetables, in the chicken. We're going to add a little bit of vinegar with it, sweeten it up with a little bit of sugar, and really let it braise for a couple of hours just to get it nice and tender, moist. And with that, we're going to make a nice pea puree. And we'll add a little bit of potato for creaminess. So to start off, we have this nice whole chicken. And what we're simply going to do with this chicken is we're going to cut it in, basically quarter it, and we're going to roast the pieces just like that in the pan. And we're also going to make these into a nice piece of breast right here, and we're just going to cut off the outer tip right here, and then cut the breast in about half and lay these in here. So with that, the first step is to sear. With a nice decent sized skillet that fits the item of the chicken, we are going to add a little bit of turnips. We're going to add a little bit of carrots again. We're going to add a little bit of radishes, season with some beautiful rosemary, along with some thyme. Season with a little bit of sun-dried tomatoes. And we're going to add some whole cloves of garlic, which they're not going to be very harsh, being that they're going to be roasting for a couple of hours. So no worries about that. So I have the skillet going. Again, we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. So the idea with braising is that you basically sear your item, and then you add all your ingredients along with the liquid, and then you stick it in the oven, basically let it take care of itself for a couple of hours. You can do whatever you do like you normally do while that's cooking, and it'll be ready in a couple of hours with lots of fragrance. We cook it at low. We cook it about 300 degrees, and basically let it simmer a couple of hours. It's done. The sides today we're going to do is this peas with the potatoes mash. So we're going to make that while we're waiting. But otherwise, the skillet is nice and warm, not too hot. Once you get it warm, you turn it down just a little bit. So the idea is to get a nice golden sear on your chicken. And you just let it simmer there for a minute just to get the skin nice and golden. And as it's searing, you can go ahead and add your different ingredients to this. Again, we're going to add a little bit of turnips and kind of rough chop them because they're going to be cooking for a couple of hours. So no need to worry about whether or not they're going to be done in time. Actually, they'll be keep it nutritious, keep it healthy. Just throw them, cut them up in chunks, whatever you like, and put them in there along with the chicken. A little bit of radishes we're going to add. We're going to add a little bit of whole clove of garlic. Again, keep the nice and sear. If it goes down a little bit too low, add a little bit to it again. The herbs, we're just going to add whole because we're going to be able to pull them out afterwards. So you no need to take them off the stem or all that. Just lay them in here nicely. It's going to be covered with the juice. So basically, once it's done, you just yank them out and you're leaving all the leaves in the dish. And you just pull the stem out. Some people like to tie them up. You can make a little bouquet. That way it's easier to pull out in the end. You're going to add the sun-dried tomatoes to this. Sun-dried tomatoes. We're going to add a little bit of our vinegar. And again, we're actually using a little bit of cane vinegar again. We just like that round flavor of it. Sweeten it up with a little bit of brown sugar. Kind of sprinkle it on top. Season a little bit of salt and pepper. Right there on top. And now we're going to add a little bit of shallots as well. Just kind of rough chop those as well. Get that mild flavor onion in there. And basically, to use a skillet that you're able to stick in the oven is the best way to do it. That way all you have to do is simply grab it from the stove, turn off the burner, and stick it in here. And it will slowly roast about 300 degrees, and you'll tell, you can check the chicken after about an hour, hour and a half, and basically when the meat pulls apart, it's ready to go. The next thing is the peas. You pick up some nice sugar peas and really getting that freshness into a puree rather than traditional cooking them. It's just a different way for me to do it. I added a little bit of Yukon Gold potatoes for the mash because all we're going to add to this is a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of butter. and getting that creaminess in this pea, lots of flavor. The only thing really to be concerned about is when you do have the peas, you see this little, you break the tip and you pull this string. That's kind of chewy and not something that you want in your puree. So we cleaned those already. We're just gonna dump these in. We boiled the potatoes so they're nice and soft. Yukon Gold is one of my favorite potatoes, and it is that because they're not nearly as starchy. Really buttery once you use them. We're gonna add a little bit of butter to this as well. And so we're just gonna pulse this mash together. We don't wanna keep it running because then the starch will come out in the potatoes. So it's basically let the butter get in there, let the peas get pureed in so you get this nice light green mass, if you will. And you can tell it's kind of a nice soft, like a mashed potatoes with peas in it, just to get that nice flavor this time of year, getting fresh peas. But just run it just to where it's mashed. That's the key. Otherwise, it kind of becomes a little bit starchy and not as pleasant as you intended it to be. So we have a nice plate. I actually made a little bit ahead of time for the chicken. We did, again, you see how the vegetables are soft. The chicken is nice and golden. The liquid has absorbed all the chicken. We're pulling out these little stems from the herbs, which we're just going to discard those. But otherwise you have a nice, beautiful, sweet, savory broth. And so we basically place the puree here in the bottom to be the base of our dish. And so when you place it, we just place a little bit of chicken on top. Make sure you serve lots of the vegetables, or you could just put the pot on the table if you're sitting around the dining table. But it has that nice dark color from the vinegar along with roasting. Serve a little bit of this. And by cutting the chicken up to a few different pieces, you can give a couple of different parts for each serving. And you're going to ladle a little bit of the juice on top just to get it nice in here. We have a couple of seasonal flowers that we can add. Adds a little bit of peppery to your dish. Make it very nice and appetizing. Enjoy. Welcome back to Currant Kitchen. We played with carrots, we played with chicken. Now it's time for dessert. And dessert is going to be one of my favorite. I'm going to use fennel, and fennel is a vegetable that looks like this. And it has a flavor of licorice. And licorice, growing up, Denmark licorice, is like an automatic connection. So we're going to play with that, but we're going to also make a white pepper fromage, which is a parfait, if you will. And that's actually what we're going to go ahead and start first, because it's going to have a little bit of gelatin in it. So what we did was we're going to separate some eggs, and we're going to throw them in the mixer along with a little bit of sugar. And basically let that run in the mixer till it gets nice and fluffy. Get nice and fluffy to like a pale yellow. And while that's mixing, what we're going to do is we're going to cut up our fennel. And basically slice them down the middle. Get a little bit of that core out, because that's really tough. And for this dish, we're going to caramelize them in a pan, slowly add a little bit of butter, so you get this sweet licorice in it with a nice, little bit spicy, not too hot though, but a little bit of spicy fromage, like a creamy parfait. So that's how we're gonna make those. So just cut them. It's just kind of large shape because they're gonna cook for a little bit of while to get the sugar going in, soaking up into that fennel, making it really sweet, savory. So we start our pan on a low fire. We want to get the sugar, spread the sugar in the pan. Once we start seeing it caramelize, we're going to add the fennel and then a little bit of butter, and then it's just going to simmer on a low temperature until the fennel is tender. Now the trick with making caramel is there's really two ways you can do it. You can mix water with sugar and basically let it reduce down to a light golden caramel, or you can do what I'm doing, put the sugar directly in the pan, let it start getting golden. But the trick with this is do not stir in it. You kind of have to keep your hands on your back. Just let it slowly. Once you see it, you may swirl it around a little bit, but otherwise leave it alone. Then we add the fennel, and then we add the butter, and just let it simmer, and you'll get this nice syrupy, licoricey, with obviously the pieces of fennel in it. So our eggs are almost there. For this fromage, what we're trying to do, we're going to add whipped cream to this egg and sugar mixture. Once again, pale yellow is what we're trying to get it to, so it's a nice fluffy. We're going to add a little bit of gelatin. And the gelatin that I'm using is gelatin sheets. Now you could easily use powdered gelatin, use the ratio. Generally, if you use the sheets, you use about 8 sheets to a quart, but go from the package if you use powder. Powder is just fine to use. It's just a preference of the gelatin. And what you do with the sheets is you soak them in a little bit of cold water because they start off really crispy. You soak them off and they get nice kind of gooey, like almost like a gummy bear kind of thing. And then, oh, what's the sugar? Again, kind of see the start to get golden in the edge. That's kind of when you just start to move it around without stirring. Please don't stir. And then what we do with this gelatin is we add it to a skillet, and we're just trying to warm it up. We're not trying to boil it. It's just what it does, it starts to melt for the gelatin. Once it melts and it becomes liquid, that's when we're going to add it into our fromage, which is going to help the fromage to sit up once it chills, because once it chills, it'll sit back up. So again, see the sugar? It's starting to get nice and golden. You kind of just move it around without, turn the heat down a little bit at this point. This point, it goes really fast. It goes really fast from light brown to dark and burnt. So what we do once it's nice and golden like this, we are just going to place the fennel in here and kind of swirl it around, and we're going to add a little bit of butter, because the idea with this whole process is we're actually extracting the water, the flavor out of the fennel, making that into the syrup without adding any further liquids to it. So you kind of see it's with the butter and with the sugar, basically it's starting to cook the fennel a little bit, and as it cooks for a couple of minutes, you'll start to see, obviously, the fennel will cook, and it makes that liquid from the fennel ooze out into the caramel. So it's really becoming this sweet, licorice flavor. Our egg yolks are done. And basically what you can see this nice pale mixture, which we're going to add to our cream. We're going to fold it in here. We're going to fold it in our heavy cream, which we basically whipped to where it's fairly soft peaks. And we're making a nice folding it in. You don't really want to stir it. You just want to fold it in nicely in this mixture. And of course, right now we just have sugar, egg yolks, and heavy cream. And we're going to add a little bit of our white pepper. Going to drizzle a little bit on top. And then we're also going to add a little bit of vanilla bean. And the best way to use vanilla bean is you cut it down the center And you basically take your knife and you lay it flat and you draw it through the vanilla bean. And this right here is pure vanilla bean. So if you mix that in here, get that nice flavor. Make sure you mix it up because it's almost like pasty-like because it's soft inside. But as you can see, as you mix it, you'll see the black spots coming through in the mixture. And that's how you know you got all your vanilla. And you can smell it. I mean, the smell is coming out. It's very strong vanilla. And it's, so you have the sweetness, you have the vanilla, you have the white pepper, and it really just comes nicely. Now, in order to make this set up, we're just going to check on our fennel for a second. See how nice and bubbly comes up around the fennel, making it nice and soft and sweet. And so, here comes the tricky part. Not necessarily tricky, but you do want, this is the liquid gelatin. Just remember, we heated it up a little bit so it gets warm. And while you're trying to get it not only just to melt the gelatin, but you also want it a certain heat so when it hits the cold cream, it's not sitting up instantly. You want to be able to mix it while you pour in, and this is where maybe whoever's cooking with you can help you hold the bowl. But otherwise, it's just a thin stream in while you're stirring, right in here. And then what you do is you make sure it's mixed up nicely. And you will see it thicken up a little bit right away just due to the ice cold cream. Fennel is almost there. You really see that caramel really taking in. This is actually a great recipe for using for light berries in the summer. It just has a nice, again, that sweetness and a little bit of the white pepper. Just provides a whole, like another dimension to what you're eating. So all we're simply going to do is we're going to take this, and again, normally you kind of would want to let it sit in the fridge for at least an hour, chill it for a little bit. So that's what we're going to do, put it right over here. But we're going to create the base for this, and we're going to put a little bit of fennel laying across. And the fennel, what you want to do with the fennel is that you want to cook it, but you're not really interested in completely getting rid of the texture, because that crunch is what's part of this dish that makes it stay interesting as you eat it. Fennel doesn't take that long to cook, especially when they're cut up like this. So basically, you kind of lay it over. And you can even serve the fennel cold. You don't have to necessarily serve it hot right out of the pan. Because once all the liquid is released from the fennel, it will also release this, makes your sauce, it makes it into more of a sauce than necessarily a really, so you can drizzle a little bit on top of that. I'm serving it on a plate. You could obviously easily serve it on in a bowl or these. You can actually put a little bit of the fresh fennel leaves. Spring a little bit on top of that. And here you have it like a creamy parfait / fromage with caramelized fennel. Enjoy. And now it's time for the final instruction, eating. We made 3 lovely dishes, a little bit of carrots with goat cheese, a little chicken, some sweet fennel for dessert. We've done that all from the local purveyors right here in Houston. This is a meal that you can share daily or a special occasion with family and friends. If you missed any steps along the way, don't worry, currantkitchen.com. You can get all the help you need, anything you want. Thank you for watching. You're watching Currant Kitchen with Chef Soren Peterson. Hope to see you next time.